bring in Patrick McGee. I mentioned right at the top of the hour. Here's Patrick, the San Francisco correspondent for the Financial Times. The new book that he has out that I've been reading and many people have been reading, it's called Apple in China. How do I know many people have been reading it? I know it just appeared on the New York Times bestseller list. So congratulations, Patrick. I'm not surprised by that. That's great news for you. And the reason, and I want to talk about tech. I know you cover tech, and we have like NVIDIA earnings that just came out tonight, which I think speak to AI in the future. But I need to start with your book on a big picture point, if I can, because some of us who've kind of covered this, I know you've covered it more in depth, but just those of us who covered business news in general, and I've been to China a few times, a lot of us knew the importance of China to Apple, right? Oh, China, you know, they're making all their phones in China. But I think what your book shows, and maybe you could talk about this a little bit, what about Apple's importance to China? I mean, that kind of blew me away a little bit. You know, talk about that, because I don't think a lot of people realize how important that's been.
This is a really unexpected narrative that I didn't really pitch so much as it came out of interviewing more than 200 people. So I sort of turned the usual narrative on its head. I think our understanding of Apple in China over the last 2 decades, really through the reporting, is one of tedious jobs, right? So we're familiar with like allegations of, overworked laborers, going beyond 60-hour work weeks, underage laborers, accusations of Uyghur labor, maybe just the conveyor belt production line of how sort of tedious these jobs are. But I turn it on its head and I say, look, this isn't a story about Apple exploiting China. This is a story about China allowing Apple to exploit Chinese workers so that China can exploit Apple. And what I'm pointing to there is that inherent in the process of having like crazy designs coming out of the Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive design studio was building them at scale. And you could only build them at scale if you fly over to China, hundreds of engineers through hundreds of factories, teaching, auditing, supervising, and indeed even installing machinery to man the production line, like hundreds of billions of dollars worth of machines, later billions of dollars worth of machines, to allow these suppliers to actually carry out the vision, if you will, of Johnny Ive. So there's technology transfer embedded in that process, and that's where you get to these sort of crazy numbers and crazy influence that Apple had on one country.
And the influence included literally training so many of these Chinese workers who did not only the work for Apple, but went on to do work and for other companies. Think everything's Huawei, for example. Like a lot of these other companies are, in effect, trained by China. Here's a quote from your book. In dozens and then hundreds of factories across the country, Americans worked side by side with Chinese laborers, promoting an obsessive attention to detail and teaching problem-solving techniques. If the factories didn't have the right equipment, Apple would spend hundreds of millions of dollars to buy it and install it for them, Patrick. So they're doing China's work for it or helping China's rise.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Apple's sort of working on its own, like in a selfish way. They're doing this to create their own products. But in a sense, my geopolitical twist here, if you will, is if you think about how obsessive Apple is over their quality of the product, coupled with the fact that they're building almost a $500 billion products per year in the form of 230 million iPhones, but then a host of other products, to get that done, you are basically scaling up all sorts of factories. But basically all of these factories are in China. Really, none of them are in America. And so it's sort of a story of hollowing out America and at the same time up-arming our biggest adversary.
Is it,
when Apple, sorry.
No, no, you can continue that, obviously. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was wondering while you were speaking, is it gone too far? In other words, we've done so many stories recently about how Apple needs to diversify, to other countries, and as India's come up. Has it gone to a point where that, they're just in too deep, that they can't do that? Or is it still possible to kind of get out and adjust? I mean, and the other thing that I thought was interesting as you answer that question is to tell the story about how it kind of started in many ways or took off. Tim Cook, who's now the CEO, he wasn't then, your job still was. It was a phone call, as I understand it from your book, that he made to the head of Foxconn that kind of got all of this started. So talk about that and then how it started, and then can it still change?
A lot to unpack there. So what people don't know is between 1996 and 2003, Apple is making products in about 7, 8, maybe even 9 different countries. I mean, you probably didn't know that the translucent iMac was made out of LG in Korea, but then they expand to Wales and Mexico. Foxconn comes on board and they build that computer in China, but they also build it in the Czech Republic and they build it in Wales. So there's all sorts of really interesting details about where to manufacture things. But what happens is like the armies of affordable laborers really win out in China, such that if you have this sort of like triple continent strategy that Apple had going back to the 1980s, what you began to realize is that like every product that's being made in multiple locations, the cost, the efficiency, the timing is all better in China. So I mean, to be clear, I give all sorts of credit to China for having the right industrial policies, the right labor policies, the hard workiness of the people, the 12-hour workdays, in sort of being able to sort of like play with Apple like at that level, if you will, if I'm treating it like a sport. Yeah. Like it was like LeBron James getting to the right stadium or something like that. The partnership is just really what makes Apple the company, and the partnership is really what makes China the country. And that's a ludicrous claim, but it's like 400 pages of ammunition of getting you to understand that Apple's influence has been like that of the Marshall Plan on Europe.
That's what I was really surprised by. So now if Apple says, well, we're going to go somewhere else, is that something they can do, or would, you know?
So I wish I could be more optimistic for your listeners. You know, they're getting ready to have dinner and they want a nice message and so forth. But I'm really not that optimistic. And the reason why is that Beijing wants technology transfer to be a one-way gate. The information comes in, it does not go out. And because they have Apple over such a barrel, when Apple tries to make moves to diversify to India, China can basically just say no, right? I mean, they can basically say if Chinese-made machinery for a production line is being exported to India, we're just going to cancel the license. Wow. If India needs the experiential know-how of literally thousands of engineers coming out of China, they can just block their visas. And these are things that they actually have done. These aren't hypothetical things. If Apple were to really accelerate their plans to India, China could just cause a couple factories to lose electricity for a few hours. I mean, there's not much they need to do to instill their message of like, you shall not leave kind of thing. That's where you get the subtitle of the book, that Apple has been captured.
Right. Well, Apple has been captured. Yeah. No, it's worth, everyone should read it that thinks they kind of know, right? And I was in that group. I think I kind of understand it, but then I was like, no, hold on. I didn't know about that. And it's really fascinating the way you put it all together. It really is. Patrick, I ask you one more question, because Please. I think it's the next step in all of this is, it's already happening, but AI and how it all plays out, and what you found in your reporting about the past that kind of plays into the future. So, for example, NVIDIA, the huge chip maker, just came out with its latest earnings report. It was a good quarter, the last quarter, but in the next quarter, they're worried about these chip restrictions President Trump has put in place, and so their sales in, this is Q1, Q2 are going to be below estimates. Okay, so how does what you found out about Apple, if it does at all, play into the next wave of how everybody's going to deal with AI and China?
Well, look, AI is the next frontier, and Apple and China, or I'm sorry, US and China really are the two players that are going to determine hegemony, who has hegemony for the 21st century, and AI plays a central role in that. So, like, as usual, Trump is able to pick on something where there really is a substantive issue, but then what he does with it is usually off base from what, you know, someone like me would be advocating that he do. So, it's a really tough problem, but like if I just sort of narrow it back to Apple, because that's where like my real expertise is, Apple can't use ChatGPT in phones that are made for China, right? Like that ChatGPT is illegal there. Siri, unfortunately, is as dumb as a rock, to quote Satya Nadella. And so they need to use a Chinese partner. And like, there's no more symbolic gesture, if you will, of the iPhone becoming more and more Chinese than the artificial intelligence that will be powering it within China is going to be a Chinese company like Baidu rather than something American made. And that's sort of an explicit thing because you'll be interacting with it that way. But the hardware within the iPhone is increasingly Chinese with time, as Taiwanese, Korean, American suppliers all get pushed out because the companies that have the political connections, the Guangxi with China, are able to get the free land, the free machinery, and so forth to operate at lower margins. And so Apple is really becoming more and more of a Chinese company with every year.
It's amazing. Well, they have a lot of money. You know, that's where we got to go, Patrick. But the one thing, I think this was right at the beginning of the book, Apple's get more money in China. How did you compare it to like the CHIPS Act? Wasn't there like a number like compared to what we spend?
Yeah, in 2015, ridiculous. Apple runs a supply chain study to determine what is our impact on the country, and they determined that they're investing $55 billion a year into the country. This is not including the bill of materials, not including the parts. It's really an investment in the country. And yeah, I mean, just to give you a context for how large that is, the CHIPS Act, which is the flagship program of Biden to introduce fabrication of chips into America, that's $52 billion every 4 years. So Apple in our greatest adversary is basically doing one CHIPS Act per year. And Gina Raimondo, Commerce Secretary, called the CHIPS Act a once-in-a-century investment. And yet here's Apple, just normal operations of business in China spending that much.
As you say, our biggest adversary. That number, I just wanted to point that out before we wrapped up, is crazy. If you just stop and think about it for a second, like, what? Patrick, great stuff. Again, everybody should read the book, and thanks for coming on. Apple in China. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Cheers, Connell. Thank you.
Apple.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.